they don't play as a freshman, if they're not on the varsity team, then they just say, I'm not going to do it anymore.
You either get burned out, or two, you're not good enough to play. So when you get to high school, you don't want to play. And that's starting in now, third grade.
Back in the 1970s and 80s, high school sports began to take off. Over the past 40 years, students nationwide have found an obsession with leading their community to a county title. But throughout the past several years, that joy seems to have been lost. And it leaves us with the question, why are students less involved in high school sports? Where did the hype go? What has changed throughout high school sports to make students lose interest? To answer these questions, we've come up with 5 factors of quitting. Number 1, working.
Well, I think over the last few years, with COVID and all the restrictions, the loss of the spring sport, students started seeing other options. We have a lot of students now that are working and they're not participating in athletics.
The pay is so good right now compared to what it was even 10 years ago. If you can go somewhere like a Walmart and make $15 an hour, they're making money that most high school kids have never seen before.
With students getting offered pay such as $18.50 at Hobby Lobby, $14 an hour at Dick's, and $17 at Lowe's, why would students want to play sport when they could use their time to make money? Students have to weigh the option of making money or working hard at a sport for almost nothing in return.
They don't have free time or time to get a job, to pay for a car, to pay for insurance. They see that as opposed to the fact that you're going to be working the rest of your life. High school is that opportunity, the benefits that you have, in the fun times that you develop, in the things that you look back at, really come from a lot of athletics.
Another factor in making the decision to play a sport is the scholarship money available for college. If students are good enough to play at the next level, they work on their sport, but if they do not have the talent to do that, they resort to working for money towards college.
Kids think if they focus on one sport, they're going to get a scholarship to play at the next level, and I don't think that's always true. We, as coaches, we've put out statistics to our kids about college coaches wanting kids that play multiple sports, but I think that's hard to get through their brains and get into their parents' brains, more importantly.
Playing in college or moving on, I think that has become the focus often. It's not really a very productive focus, because a lot of times to play in college, you go to a Division 2 or 3 school, and those Division 2 and 3 schools cost a lot of money. Whether they give you money or not, you're still spending 50 grand, 30 grand. And not only just so that you can say that I played in college, and it becomes this like ribbon or trophy, or this like, hey, I'm really cool because I can do this, as opposed to a true, genuine sort of like love of the game.
With students working, many don't have the time to invest in sports, but instead invest it in other hobbies they're interested in, which takes us to our next reason. Number 2, time commitment.
They don't have anything else that they can do, because all of their time is consumed going to practice and having games and not being able to do anything else with their friends or like their family, and you just don't have time for anything else besides that.
I think we would probably both agree the time, because when we were in school back in the late 90s, you pretty much did your in-season sport, and when you got beat in the tournament or playoffs, whatever it was, your season was pretty much done until, we did a few things in the summer, but not near the time commitment that kids have to give nowadays.
The big thing is now the time commitment for a sport. It doesn't matter what sport it is. Unfortunately, I think what we've done, and I put a lot of this on the state of Ohio more than anybody, really, because I'm talking specifically our state, is we just don't have any guidance in terms of, some states over the summer they give kids off. All sports, you can't do anything in the month of June. You can't do anything in the month of July, whatever that is. Unfortunately, what we're doing is it's becoming a year-round thing. It doesn't matter what sport you're playing. It's every sport now. It used to be, slowly it was basketball and AAU basketball, and then it became volleyball with junior, JO volleyball, baseball. And baseball's one that, they play all year round too. I just don't think kids get that break.
There are a lot of things that are asking time of student athletes. I have a 9-year-old right now, and it's amazing how many things she's in and she's 9. So I've got to imagine that as she gets older, as she gets into high school, those things are only going to get greater and greater. Now, why that's different from when I was in school, I'm not real sure.
High school students are notorious for not having the best time management skills. Every student must have a routine of their day to be able to accomplish all the necessary tasks. To start their day, they go to school. This takes them to roughly 2:30 to 3 o'clock. From there, if involved in a sport, they have practice, which takes another 2 hours. By the time the student gets home, there isn't much time left in the day for other hobbies, such as spending time with friends.
Because, you go through your school day, and after your school day you have practice, and then after practice it wears you down. So I feel like a lot of kids don't do that because it wears you down.
A lot of kids that are in athletics are in high performing academics as well. And so when you see a varsity player, a lot of times they're also a varsity player but in the academic sense. And so that stress, just like being a captain, being the head of the team, like even at the lower levels of the team, you're still feeling the stress of winning and everything like that.
From most students' perspective, the ideal school night doesn't involve staying after practice and putting in extra hours. They want free time so that the pressure of a schedule is released and they become more flexible. Sports are just a waste of time that they could be spending doing other things.
It's time consuming, especially if you want to be like one of the best at it. You have to put extra work in, time like other people don't do and stuff like that, which is very time consuming.
You see a lot of high school kids, they get the summer schedules and stuff, and they don't want to go to the summer things, put the work in, and that essentially leads to them not succeeding on their playing field, which leads them to be down, not, kind of get the attention they want playing their sport. So then, therefore, they just essentially think there's no point in playing.
Electronics, laziness, and a procrastination play into most students' bad grades and also a lack of want to play sports. Many students have replaced sports with gaming.
Many people would rather just stay at home, not go through hard work per se. I mean, they take the easier way out and it's just becoming more popular.
The use of smartphones, devices like that, where they're just, they're wrapped up in gameplay with people that are, that they may know, maybe some that they don't know.
Number 3, the burnout. The burnout is one of the most common excuses for quitting a high school sport. Students quit sports with the intention of putting in more time to another, but this idea initiates the burnout. The idea seems appealing and the best way to improve your skill level. Students begin trial with sports and putting in extra hours, but eventually the sport becomes a task for the student instead of an escape from other pressures.
It became more of like a burnout thing, especially doing a lot of travel stuff. I did travel basketball and travel baseball, and over time it just became more of a job than it was fun, and it just kind of got an annoying thing, and it just my heart just stopped because it was just a full-time job and it just wasn't it anymore.
There is a growing number of students right now that if they are going to play a sport, they're wanting to play one sport and they're wanting to specialize in that sport and play, AAU basketball or JO volleyball or whatever, and that's all they want to play all the time. And I think that'll make it so they're only playing that one sport in season. But then I've seen a lot of different situations too where they get burnt out. They've been playing one sport for so long that when they do get up to high school where it matters or it counts or that's what they've been waiting for, they don't want to do it anymore because they've been doing one sport for 7 years.
A lot of our high school athletes used to do multiple sports just to stay busy and to be with their friends. Now I think they're focusing on a single sport and then doing other things, work, their own personal things that they found, during the limited time. But I think kids are now focusing on maybe one sport, if any. I mean, we're seeing a large drop in student numbers participating in athletics.
What leads to this burnout and the significant decrease in numbers over the years? Are club sports to blame?
I think a lot of it's just their own thinking, well, if I don't do this, then I'm not going to have a fair shot of playing. And I think that's really deterred a lot of kids from participating in any sport, because it seems like it's all the time commitment. There's no downtime.
They feel that there's a big gap between good people in sports and bad people, and a lot of times they don't want to go through that like hard work to get good. You know what I mean?
It is crucial for students to find a happy medium between working hard at a sport and taking it too far to where they get burnt out. The differentiating question being, is not seeing results and getting burnt out the same thing?
I would say there's like moments where I feel like I've worked like really hard at something and it just doesn't show up in like a game. So like I wouldn't say it's burnout, I would say it's more just like frustration, like I'm in a slump.
It makes logical sense that with less students playing, there is less success seen on that particular playing field, prompting students to not see the results they want. It is understandable for students to be frustrated when they feel like all the hard work they put in isn't showing.
It wasn't really the numbers that mattered. It was I had girls on that team that were committed to working hard before, during, and after practice, that in the off season they were committed to working. If you have a ton of players but not really a lot of people that are wanting to put time in, it's really hard to make any kind of headway in getting interest, in getting playing time, things like that.
During football, we didn't have enough people. We didn't have a lot of people. We didn't have a lot of depth in the chart, which caused people just to get tired and play both sides. And during football, you really shouldn't be able to play both sides because you'll just get tired really easily.
If you look at some of the bigger schools, or not bigger, but more involved schools in our area like Norway and as such, they have tons of athletes and they're well-rounded in every sport they play.
The less success these students see, the more frustrated they become, and this frustration can easily be transferred onto people surrounding them, or may even be caused by them. This leads us into our next topic. Number 4, drama. Coaches, parents, and students create chaos and become an abundant distraction from the sport. Although most people mean well, these outside influences drive students away from loving the game.
For me, my time playing soccer has been tumultuous at times. I've had some instances where the coaches have made me maybe feel like I wasn't that good, so I'd stress about it a lot and kind of talk down to myself at times, and I'd get in my head. But then other times, like especially at the high school level, I've had really great coaches who have been really encouraging, and I wouldn't be the same person that I am right now without them.
I was not treated the same way that others were being treated. It was some people would be favorited and others would not.
I think coaches play a huge role in sports and mental health. I've had 3 coaches. I play basketball. I've had 3 coaches throughout my high school career, and I'd say each single one of them has impacted my mental health and the way I perform in a sport in a different way, and just how they approach helping the team and trying to get them to change, how they influence the team and how they support the team, that definitely will impact your mental health.
While students form opinions about their coaches, the parents can also play a large role in how the students view their authoritative figure.
The perception that you see from the stands is not always reality on the court or on the field or whatever, because they're not at practice every day. They don't get to experience how their son and or daughter is participating in practice, leading in practice, or working in practice. So that comes out. So I think that there's a lot that can be unwound at home, at the dinner table, or on the car ride home, that you are going to have to try to rewind and put back on the reel in practice the next day.
Parents don't understand as coaches, we have an entire team to take care of. So for me, I have 25 to 26 kids in the gym that I'm concerned about every single day, and Coach Indorf's got 35, 40 football kids he's concerned with every single day. Parents are concerned about one. And sometimes we have to make tough decisions that are better for the team. And I feel the administration puts us in those positions. They trust us to make those decisions, and we have to be able to look at ourselves in the mirror knowing that we made the right decision for the team at the end of the day.
Not only do parents affect students' views on their coaches, but they also affect the way kids view themselves.
I think it's just like a lot of like peer pressure from parents. I think parents put too much pressure on their kids and kids just stop enjoying it.
You are put under a lot of pressure in high school. Like I think high school is a place where a lot of people feel they have to meet certain expectations, whether it's from coaches, parents, teachers, themselves.
I just loved sports when I was younger. I still do, but it's a lot more stressful because politics are in it. Like a bunch of parents get into it and then it just creates bigger problems and it's not what we need.
Drama does not only influence high schoolers, but also the younger generation. Number 5, youth sports. Youth sports is where the love of the game begins. Kids begin to figure out what they are best at, what they have fun with, and they make new friends.
Nice job.
Many people look back on their days in youth sports and think of the lack of pressure they felt and the fun that they had.
Middle school when I got that buzzer beater beating Landale.
I remember that game. For football, I was never really good at football in elementary school or middle school. I was horrible. If you think about someone running away from the football, that was me most likely. But definitely the best part about football would probably be my middle school career. 8th grade year is where we beat Norway again, 22-0. And it just made me really happy because I finally started figuring out the sport and finally feeling like I was in my place. I felt like I was worth it.
I played left field, and I would always go in like the playground. I wasn't actually playing during the games. I mean, it's a funny story, but it's all as you get older, it gets more intense and more complex.
Unfortunately, more recently, youth sports numbers have started to decrease while the pressure by parents and themselves increase.
I think there is a dwindling number of youth teams as well. Like I coached Parks and Rec this year. I don't have anything to compare it to. Like this was the first year I've coached Parks and Rec, but there weren't a ton of teams. Like there were, back when I was in school, they had multiple teams in multiple grades from the same school. Even in like Northwestern, we're not even talking about like big Worcester or these larger schools. Now it's you're lucky if you have a team in every division, and I just think that it's that is something that I can't put my finger on why the interest is down.
Coach 10U, which is 3rd and 4th graders, and it's crazy because these students they do get down on themselves a lot, and so me and the other coach, what we try to do is we try to approach it in a positive outlook, like you're doing so good, like keep trying because you're so close, and they'll be like, oh, I'm so bad at this, and we always try to tell them, like, don't say that you suck, don't say that you can't do it, because as long as you are trying hard enough, you will eventually get there.
I would say it's definitely different. I think the parents are kind of taking over, which is not a good thing. So I don't know if it's more competitive, but it's a whole different game.
Youth sports have gradually changed over the years, specifically the awards and privileges they received before high school.
I would say it probably relates to the wrong approach at youth sports level. From burnout perspective and accomplishing what are deemed great feats by coaches and parents and little kids alike that sort of mitigate or lessen the value of playing under the lights when you're in high school or winning a championship when you're in high school. So I think youth sports, the approach of youth sports is probably the biggest cause.
To recap the reasons students don't play high school sports: 1, work; 2, time commitment; 3, burnout; 4, drama; and 5, youth sports, along with other various reasons. These reasons are validated by multiple students, coaches, and administrators that have seen or experienced these things. Although these reasons are not to be overlooked, many claim the positives of playing sports heavily outweighs the negatives.
You make a whole bunch of new friends from your team and other teams, and you build a friendship with kids on your team. You trust one another throughout the game and the season. So basically a family.
Or just learning how to function as part of a group or a unit, which takes you right into your adulthood when you're working at a job. You have to be able to be able to function as part of a group in your job setting. So that's a big thing. Another One is just learning about competition, and things are competitive out in the adult world, so it gives them an idea of what it's like.
I connected with like my main friend group through soccer pretty much.
Some benefits is for sure memories, and especially if you're a competitive person, it's like that like hype behind it, like that ego type changer thing. It's just like it's like a good feeling.
Lifelong memories and bonds can be made that are very hard to find in other places other than sports. Some students are missing out on the one time in their life when sports are meant to be a fun and memorable learning experience. A time where they can have a great time with friends while also learn to interact with a team. Although it's hard to sometimes find the energy and time to participate in athletics, you will learn lessons that will be beneficial for the rest of your life. Although high school sports aren't going to last your whole life, they can make an impact on it. So parents, staff, as well as students encourage others to participate in athletics and to enjoy it while they still have the chance.